Good morning. I'm Mac Lumen. This is Ubu. We're in Haleiwa on the North Shore of Oahu to talk about me running for governor. To review, well, first of all, I think I mentioned this, I don't edit these. I clip the front and the back end because I'm the only one here. But I don't go through the video, listen to it, watch it, edit it. So things are going to overlap, and I'll repeat things. So one day last week I made 5 or 6 videos before I was happy with one. It's very easy to screw up in the middle of these things. Okay, so I wanted to review garden boxes, learn about soil and dirt, learn how to make dirt by composting, learn about seeds, planting, harvesting, preserving, cooking, or canning, freezing, drying, but preserving. That's number 1. We need to take care of ourselves. Number 2, clean up the trash on the islands. Cleanliness is next to godliness. This place is turning into a trash hole. It needs to stop. It needs to be reversed. And I would plan to close down certain parts of the islands and have cleanup programs going year-round. The other thing that's disturbing to me, cemeteries, I think I mentioned, a lot of them in disrepair, have just been ignored, abandoned. And these are ancestors, these are people that lived here before us, who loved their lives, who struggled, who suffered, who were happy and sad. And we should show a little more respect and clean up these cemeteries, do the best we can with what there is at those places. Some of them are not possible to completely make look beautiful, but we can do something. Okay, traffic. We drive way too fast on these islands. It tears up the roads, and it's dangerous, and people die. And we need to slow it down. I think I mentioned I was passed by a garbage truck on H1 a couple of days ago. I was doing 65 or 67, and they just kind of sailed right past me in the middle lane. The other thing, so we're up to noise pollution. Traffic, noise pollution. We gotta bump up the CCs for the scooters so that they don't have to put straight pipes and expansion chambers on their scooters to get that little more speed. So I would propose we go to an 80 cc rather than a 50 cc, because these guys are out in the roads. They're not on the H1, but they're on the roads, and they always have to wind them out to the top RPM to keep up with things. And if they had a little more power, they wouldn't have to do that. They wouldn't have to put expansion chambers on. Because the worst thing in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning downtown, is to hear one of those guys with a straight pipe getting a little more horsepower. Actually get quite a bit of horsepower from taking this regular mufflers off. But if we go to an 80 cc limit, that would transition us away from the noise. The same goes with trucks and cars. There's too much noise here. So we've got to reduce the noise. Education. This is big. This is a big one. Children. We talk about children as if they're something different than us. They aren't. They're the same as us. They're human beings. And we separate them because they can't vote. They can't really make decisions, fully think things through to make safe decisions until they get a little older. But we need to treat them with respect, and we need to, as far as education goes, we need to pursue reading and writing, different forms. Reading is very important, and writing is extremely important. Learning how to write music, to write poetry, to write comic books. I write comic books. There's a process to making these little frames and drawing things and saying who's going to write down who's going to say what and who's in each panel. But there's a process, and it's fun, and children would like it. So I'd like to see more of that, because it's creative writing, making comic books. I'm not just limiting myself to comic books, but that's what I do. So So reading and writing, and then math and science. These are two important things we have to keep up with. Technology, so math and science. And science is good because it's we need to learn to respect science. We learn to appreciate science and understand science and learn its limitations as well as all that it can provide. Okay, the last three are PE, physical education, is very important. The last one would be community and mindfulness. We need to become more community-oriented. We need to come together as a community. That's my whole point of doing what I'm doing. Running for governor is to bring us together as one people and create either one extremely independent state, could even call it a nation state, or create a totally separate nation, because I think we could be of greater service to the world if we were a nation, or we were a nation state, if that's something we can do. Okay, then the last thing I wanted to mention today was a sense of that we are our environment. We are part of everything. We just aren't our family, our heritage, our culture. We are our environment. And we need to keep that in mind, because as we move through this world, this crowded world, with over 8 billion people, we are very limited on our space and our sense of freedom, because we're becoming claustrophobic. And I could talk about that. The one thought I had is about lemmings, the little lemmings that run to the sea when there's too many of them. They suicide off a cliff and drown themselves in the ocean. There's a consciousness, for instance, during wars when a lot of men are killed. The country, when they go back, when the war's over, there are more boy babies born than girl babies, more than what's normal. And also, men tend to live longer. Life expectancy bumps up 10-15% because they're needed to take care of the children and help the family. So there's a consciousness in the universe. There's a consciousness to everything. And I do teach Qigong, which is a lot about consciousness, but the one thing I'd like to say is there's several levels, types of consciousness. For instance, we talk about, but pure consciousness does not move up or down. We talk about higher or lower consciousness, but consciousness is consciousness. And consciousness is in everything. That's why the planet, can heal itself. That's why the planet kind of knows what's happening. And it's part of our relationship to the planet, but it has to do with consciousness. The world has a consciousness to it. The entire universe has a consciousness to it. And that is my interpretation of God, is infinite consciousness. So we are our environment, and we need to become more aware of that. Well, last thing I want to mention, back up here to point number 2 about things that I want, like food boxes and clean up the trash and clean up cemeteries and traffic and noise and pollution, but boat building. I would really like to see sailboats built so that we could sail between islands. I mean, I'm looking into the future, and the future is kind of grim. And it would not be difficult for somebody to take out our power system and our electrical grid system. So we need to be prepared for that. That's why we need gardens. We need to learn about food and preserving food. But we also need transportation. And sailboats, we could make money with sailboats. Tourists, big sailboats, like 200, 300 feet long, that could sail to the different islands. There could be some, maybe even transport vehicles on some of these, but I would like to see a whole fleet of sailboats, and I think tourists would be really fascinated and enjoy taking a trip on a sailboat around to all the islands. It might take a week, but that could be fun. Okay, so that's where we are today. We are our environment. That's what I'll end with. We are our environment. Oh, I have one more thing. If I was on the mainland, if I was in Oregon, California, anywhere else, I would not do what I'm doing here. I would not run for governor. I am not politically oriented, but here, for me, it seems like the natural thing to do. And that's what Taoism is about. I've done Qigong and Tai Chi for 40-some years. And I'm not a Taoist necessarily, but I studied it, I look at it, and it boils down to doing what is natural. Taoism is about nature, and nature and is natural is an extension of nature. So we do what is natural. So we have to know ourselves. We have to know what is right for us. We're the only ones that can know that. I mean, we can get help from people who can kind of guide us, but we have to do for ourselves what the right thing is and what is most natural. It doesn't mean abusing, taking advantage of that concept and running off and drinking and drugging and whatever. Okay, we are our environment. I'm Mac, as a boo-boo, running for governor.